Okay, LFO stands for low frequency oscillator. What it is it's another oscillator, right? Remember, oscillators just go back and forth. These oscillators go back and forth in such a fast way that they generate a frequency. Low frequency oscillators go back and forth very slow, too slow to make a frequency, but still they're a thing that's just going back and forth like this. That's literally all they do. They just go back and forth, right? They oscillate back and forth and back and forth. Now, they become useful when we apply that back and forth motion to other parameters. So first, we need to turn on our back and forth motion. So let's turn on LFO1. Now we can set the speed of that back and forth either by hertz, so 0.9 hertz. That's way too low for you to hear. Okay, we can hear down to about 20 hertz. This is less than 1 hertz. Okay, so you're not going to hear that. Or we could just set it to a division of the beat, so a quarter note, half note, something like that. Let's go with hertz just to keep it. Well, no, let's go to a division of the beat. That's generally easier. So let's go to a quarter note. So in case you're wondering, like, the T means triplet, so 1/4 triplet, and the D means dotted quarter note, so dotted eighth note here. So let's just go to a good old-fashioned quarter note. Okay, so I have two LFOs here. So LFO1 is at a quarter note. I'm not going to use my LFO2, although I could. So LFO1's at a quarter note. Now, it's not going to sound any different. Okay, sounds the same. Because I haven't told that LFO to do anything yet. I've just turned it on. So now there's this LFO moving at a quarter note over here, and it's just hanging out. Okay? What I need to do is go into some other parameter and say, latch this parameter onto that LFO. So let's go to our amplifier. Okay, let's say the level of our amplifier, let's attach that to LFO1. Okay, so right here it's saying 0. Let's take that all the way up to 1. Okay, now 1 is 100%. So now it's saying the volume here is going to be 100% modulated by that LFO. It's kind of a cool groove. You would hear this more obviously on a sustained note. So let's do this. Let's make another note. Let's not loop it. Let's just make a long sustained note to demonstrate this. And we're going to have to... There we go. Okay. I'm going to turn our envelope up just a little bit so that we have more sustain. Okay, so with the LFO off, we now have this. Okay, now LFO is modulating the volume in the amplifier right here. So now we hear this. Cool. I don't have to do it so extreme. If I take this down to about 50%, so 0.5, I can just type that in, by the way. Now it's going to be like, instead of our volume going like this with the LFO, it's going to go like this with the LFO, right? It's only going to go about halfway down and halfway up. Right? I could change the speed of my LFO, make it faster to an eighth note. Right? I can change the shape of the LFO, because remember, the LFO is just a oscillator like any other one. So right now it's a sine wave. If I change it to a rectangle wave, it's going to be basically on and off and on and off. Right? Typically we leave LFOs on a sine wave, but you can do them however you want. Now I can apply the LFO other places as well. If I just go to my amplifier, I could also apply it to panning. Okay, so now the panning is going to move back and forth. Let's slow this back down to a quarter note. Cool, so now you can hear it moving left and right. Now depending on how you're watching this video, you may or may not be experiencing the panning correctly. I can go to my filter and I can say the frequency is being controlled by the LFO, and this one goes all the way up to 4. I'm not really sure why that is. Now that frequency, this knob, is being open and closed by the LFO. Now it's important that in all instruments, I believe, with the exception of wavetable, you're not going to see this parameter moving up and down by the LFO. It just doesn't update that way. But that is what's happening, is this is moving up and down with the LFO. Okay, we could turn the resonance up and down by the LFO. That's going to make that laser gun effect. So let's take this down to 0 and just do the resonance. See, now you're starting to get that raunchy kind of dubstep bass. If that is the sound you want, this isn't the best way to get it, but I'm kind of in the ballpark of getting it. We'll talk more about that later. We can even go to our oscillator, and we can control the pitch with LFO. We can control the pulse width of a square wave with LFO. And those are our options. Let's control the pitch with LFO. That's nutty, but we can do it. So that's what an LFO does. It goes back and forth, and then we just assign different parameters to latch on to that back and forth motion.